All right, well, today on the JW Thoughts channel, we are going to get a little bit spooky, a little bit creepy, a little bit hair standing on the back of your neck. Yes, we are talking about demons, demonic encounters, and Satan, all of that good stuff. Honestly, I have some stories that literally still affect me to this day that I'll be telling in this episode. We're going to be looking at some quotes from Watchtower. We're going to be talking about my own personal experience and some of the things that I think now. Thank you so much for joining. Sorry this didn't come out on Halloween because it would have been so appropriate. But anyway, let's get into it. Intro. That was the worst finger guns we've ever seen. Alright, so before I get into telling any of my personal stories when it comes to demonic encounters, I just wanted to set the precedence for my computer crashing and me needing to stall for about 2 minutes while I figure out what to talk. Alright, now that we're done with the computer crash, yes, I'm going to read you a few quotes, and as I was copying and pasting these to a Word document, I definitely forgot to get the actual sources. So, if anyone is wanting to find where some of these quotes come from, go to Watchtower Library, jw.org, type in demons, and look under experiences and some other things, and you will see this and so much more. There's some really wacky, wild ones that I didn't actually want to read because they were a little bit too disturbing or kooky, or yeah, for my taste. So I picked a few of these, and let's get into it. Oh boy! So we're talking about demons. After we get done with some of these quotes, I'm going to be telling you some of my personal stories and how I, as a young Jehovah's Witness, combated my absolute terror of being influenced by demons and Satan. So it's actually pretty unique and funny. I don't know if I've ever heard someone that did it the way I did. But anyway, let's do the Watchtower quotes first, and then we'll get into all of that. This is from a Watchtower or Awake. Sorry that I don't have the references here. And it's under a subheading, Divination, Harassment, and Death. Quote, Asamija Amelia, a middle-aged woman in Suriname, was 17 years old when she first became involved in divination, a form of spiritism. Since her predictions came true and inquirers benefited from her advice, she was highly esteemed in her community. But one thing troubled her. The spirits that spoke through me... Sorry, this is a quote from her. The spirits that spoke through me were kind to those who sought their help, she says, but at the same time she made my life miserable. After each sitting, I felt beaten up and could hardly move. When night fell, I hoped for some rest, but the spirits did not leave me alone. They kept disturbing me, talking to me, and keeping me awake. And the things they said... She sighs and looks down, shaking her head in aversion. They loved to talk about sex and insisted on having relations with me. It was shocking. I was married. I did not want to be unfaithful and told them so. It did not help. Once an invisible force overpowered me, touched and squeezed my body, and even bit me. I felt wretched. Spirits encouraging sexual immorality? That is far-fetched, you may exclaim. Are those spirits really that debased? It's even worse, says Isaac, mentioned earlier. One night we were called to help a sick woman troubled by a spirit. The leader of the group, the medium of a stronger spirit, tried to chase the spirit away. For a whole day we pleaded for his spirit's help. We danced and played the drums, and gradually the woman improved. He ordered her spirit out, and this worked. We gained the victory, beamed the leader. Then we sat down and relaxed. Isaac's gesticulating arms rest for a moment while he pauses meaningfully. Then he continues. For a while, all looked well, but then a scream broke the silence. We rushed to the house where it came from and saw the leader's wife. She was crying hysterically. Inside the house, we found her little daughter, her head facing backward. Some force had wrung and broken her neck, killing her like a chicken, apparently. The revenge of the ousted spirit. Sickening. Those spirits are sadistic murderers. So, this is what I grew up with. Reading things like this. I was told that these spirits had such control that they could sexually molest you and even kill you. By reading these stories in Watchtower and by being told these stories from my parents, grandparents, and others, that the demons could have this effect on my life. If I wasn't careful, if I watched the wrong thing, read the wrong thing, listened to the wrong thing, did the wrong thing, had the wrong statue in the house, I could be sexually molested by demons, and I could also be killed by demons. These stories are very disturbing because they're not meant to give you that jump scare and ha ha ha, wow, look, I was super scared. Ha, that's terrifying and horrible. But I know those things aren't real. No, this is not like watching a horror movie. This is like watching a horror movie, but someone is telling you and whispering in your ear, an authority figure, by the way, for your life, parent, grandparent, or someone very important to you. They are whispering in your ear and saying, this is true. This is absolutely true. So imagine showing, I don't know, I'm really bad with horror movies, Supernatural or It.
Here, take it.
Supernatural horror movie. And you're watching that as someone that's like, I don't know, let's just say 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And someone that you trust is telling you, this is real. This is real. This could happen to you if you don't do the right things. If you watch the wrong movie, if you listen to the wrong song, you might be infected with these demons. How horrible is that? And then just to talk a little bit about these stories, this person who's only 17 years old and she's married, and she is being terrorized by these demons to the point where, you know, she feels this invisible force that's overpowering her and squeezing her body. I mean, how god awful. And then this other one of walking in to your daughter and her head's turned around and she's been killed. Now, let's set the precedent here. None of this is true. None of you need to be worried about this, even in the slightest, because demons do not exist. Demons don't exist.
You know it's true.
I don't know if I'm like breaking the magician's code here or really giving you a brain buster, but I'm here to relieve you and tell you that demons, Satan, none of this nonsense actually exists. And if you want just a quick precursor, has anything supernatural ever been scientifically proven to be true? Has any supernatural claim in the entire history of man, any magic claim, anything, has it ever been empirically investigated to the point where we can say, wow, yeah, that was from a supernatural cause? Spoilers, the answer is absolutely no. So you guys don't have to be scared of this, and it's kind of meant to be a little bit fun. So let's move on. Here is from another article. Publishers in Thailand find that an increasing number of people in their territory are being harassed by the demons. A husband and wife in Nakhon Sawan lived in a house that was full of idols. As the couple progressed in their Bible study, the husband mentioned that all sorts of strange things were happening in their home and were hindering their sleep. He also said that when his wife tried to go to the Kingdom Hall, she felt as if someone was holding her back, preventing her from leaving the house. The publisher directed their attention to material in the brochure Spirits of the Dead. The man acknowledged that what it described was exactly what they were experiencing. He was shown from the scriptures that what he needed to do in order to have Jehovah's blessing. The following day he asked the brothers to help him remove from his home all idols as well as other religious objects, enough to fill up a pickup truck, and to burn them in his presence outside the city. His faith was greatly strengthened when he saw that the idols, his former objects of devotion, were unable to save themselves. From that point on, the householder experienced release from the power of the demons and made good spiritual progress. Again, another story of someone being terrorized by demons, but hey, guess what? You study with Jehovah's Witnesses, and all of your demon problems, troubles will go away. I think you guys can see how this whole narrative is shaping up. Let's go with another one. My obsession with the occult and hallucinatory drugs was really hurting me. I would wake up at night and see dark figures moving about my room. One night I got so afraid that my arms went limp and I could hardly move as a terrifying object came toward me. On another occasion I was lying on my bed when strange objects suddenly appeared in the room. I began to wish I could break free from this enslavement. So here's another example of the Watchtower just going along and saying that these demonic demonic encounters are real and legitimate, that they actually do happen. Here is another one called The Demons Controlled Me. This one is pretty wild. I was a spirit medium, a sorcerer, a male witch. I employed divination. I looked for omens. I bound others with spells. I practiced black magic and voodoo, most of the spiritistic practices condemned in the Bible at Deuteronomy 18:10-12 I engaged in. The Apostle Paul's traveling companion... Oh, God. Yawns. That's what happens when you read Watchtower articles and literature, and you just get the yawns.
Yes.
A certain servant girl with a spirit, a demon of divination, met us. She used to furnish her masters with much gain by practicing the art of prediction, Acts 16:16. As was the case with that girl, a demon also provided me knowledge of things that could not be known by ordinary means. For example, before my grandmother died, I knew that her death was imminent, and when a relative would become pregnant, I knew about it before others did. These were not simply hunches that proved true. My knowledge about such things was almost always correct. When I would wish for a fellow student, teacher, or relative to become sick, invariably they would. Once I became upset with my grandmother and wanted her to be hurt. I called to the demons, asking specifically that she should cut herself. That afternoon, she cut herself with a knife. Or she was cooking. Practicing voodoo, I used articles of clothing and made an image of my brother. I wanted to keep him from bothering me. Afterward, whenever he came within 10 feet of me, he got shooting pains in his chest and had difficulty breathing, so he learned to keep away from me. Later, an acquaintance scoffed at my ability to summon the demons. I knew he dealt in drugs, so I told him he would be arrested and then released. The demons did just what I requested. Within 2 months, the man was arrested. Afterward, the charges were dropped and he was released. The man never questioned my abilities again. Yeah, these stories, we got some real funny, silly whoppers in here. Let's just keep going, and then I'll probably stop the quotes after this. My family was steeped in the religious ritual and paganism of the Ozark Mountains in the United States, where people were users of love potions and the like. I was born after my parents moved to San Francisco. They really didn't want children. It interfered with their freewheeling lifestyle. So I was neglected, shown no affection, battered emotionally. I became a loner, a hater of people. At an early age, I was drawn to the occult. I would watch all the movies and TV programs featuring it. And by the time I was about 6, I was a regular user of the Ouija board.
You're moving it. No, I'm not.
I was open to and in fact eager for communication with the spirit realm. I knew that demons existed, and I felt very comfortable talking with them, and they favored me with special powers and knowledge. I began reading all the books on occultism that I could get my hands on, obtaining them from public libraries and in particular bookstores. One store, operated by a spirit medium, catered especially to those who practice witchcraft or black magic. From reading old books on occultism, I learned the names of demons who were contacted in past ages by people who practice spiritism. Then, in my communications with the demons, I began using these names when I spoke with them. And it seems that whenever I dealt with a particular demon, that one's personality and the way he worked differed from that of another demon I would call upon. I thus came to know scores of demons by name. From my reading about occultism, I knew that the demons were angels who had lost God's favor and were not spirits or souls of people who had died. I had sympathy for these angels, and I particularly felt sorry for Satan. I became a worshiper of Satan, yet, contradictory as it was, I would at the same time pray to God. And when my prayers would be answered, I believed God had answered them. Satan had me thoroughly deceived. Although providing me special powers, the demons did not help me to be a good person. On the contrary, they twisted my thinking to hate rather than love. In time, I became a fornicator, a thief, a drunkard, a drug abuser, and homosexual. In 1974, my grandmother died. This distressed me very much. Since she was the only person I had loved, when I was a child, she read to me from the Bible and spoke about the resurrection. Now I wanted to learn more about the resurrection. From childhood on, I had wanted to live forever, and the demons had promised me that I would, but it wasn't clear how this would be accomplished. Shortly after my grandmother's funeral, I happened to mention to a girl named Gwen, whom I worked with, that the end of the world was coming, but that no one believed it. Sorry, I probably broke up the immersion there, but this story is pretty funny. Gwen said she believed it and expressed surprise that I knew. I had learned about this from the demons, but Gwen showed me these things from the Bible. Gwen would always speak of Jehovah and said he was the one who was going to bring an end to this system. I told her I hated the sound of that name, Jehovah, and asked her not to use it. She was hurt and said that if she could not use the name of the one she loved most, she'd rather not talk to me, because Jehovah is God's name. I was taken aback. So that night I went home, and taking the King James Version, the Bible of my deceased grandmother, I began paging through it, searching for the name Jehovah. I knew that if I found it in this Bible, Gwen was right, that Jehovah was God's name. But I felt sure it would not be there. I was shocked when I came to Exodus 6:3, which reads, I appeared unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, by the name of God Almighty, but by my name, Jehovah, was I not known to them. I realized in an instant that Jehovah was indeed God, and that compared to him, Satan was not powerful at all. Seeing the name I hated there in the Bible, as well as hearing about the hope of the resurrection, made me start studying with witnesses. That was a bit of a long quote, but I just felt like it was almost the perfect example of how Jehovah's Witnesses look at these encounters with demons. And there's this fear built into you that these things will get you if you're not careful. Like, they are just right around the corner at all times, and they're after you. The demons are always trying to get you. But if you are a good little Jehovah's Witness and you don't do anything naughty or wrong, then you can be saved from this nonsense. So another aspect of this is that the stories are basically meant to say, hey, when you become a Jehovah's Witness, you no longer have to worry about, these demons and them influencing you and doing bad, naughty things to you. And the funny part to me is that any Jehovah's Witness out there won't ever claim any modern day miracle happening. I mean, they'll say silly stuff like Jehovah intervened and I was able to drive for 6 months on 1 tank of gas. And I mean, every witness has some goofy story, right? And even on Watchtower or JW.org, they have some goofy stories about hurricanes delivering sand so that way they could complete a kingdom hall. And they have these divine intervention claims, but none of them are this like visceral, one-on-one, God spoke to me, right? So they're giving these examples of people that are claiming that Satan and the demons gave them the power to predict the future, to cast curses and spells on people. They had direct communication. They would talk to Satan and the demons. And then they went and became witnesses and had zero interaction with God whatsoever. And they claim that how liberating it is to know that, God is more powerful than Satan and the demons. Yet he doesn't have the power to talk to me. Satan and the demons have the power to talk to people and interact and give you superpowers. And God doesn't. And yet you, in your mind, are thinking, you know what? I think the one that's real is this one that doesn't demonstrate himself in any empirical way. He doesn't actually talk to me. Nothing. Just dead silence. But I think that person is more powerful. That's like if Satan gave me laser beams and be like, pew, or X-ray vision and made me fly. And then someone said, well, what about an invisible God that will never give you powers, that will never demonstrate himself in any way, shape, or form? Do you think that would be more powerful? Well, currently I can tell the future and fly and I have laser beams. I'm going to assume that that one is more powerful. The whole narrative is just so crazy looking back. All right, so let's get into some of Wally's personal stories, because I used to be completely terrified of demons and Satan. I was consuming this material. And I was tricked by some people, as you'll find out soon, that these things were real. And it absolutely terrified me. So the first meaningful account I can give to you guys, or story I can tell you guys, is that someone that used to babysit me, I don't know if babysit's the right word, my mom would drop us off at their house and she would go do whatever she was going to do. Anyway, that doesn't much matter. But they had a teenage son or daughter that was listening to, I think it was Led Zeppelin or Metallica or something like that. And they were trying to make a point from it. So they had this fire pit in their backyard. And they took us all out and said, and I was very young at the time, mind you, and said, look at this thing that you've been listening to. We tried to burn it when we found it, but we couldn't. We tried to burn it, but because it's possessed by the demons, it won't catch on fire. Well, we've tried to burn it in hot flames, lighter fluid, and it won't burn. Look how terrifying this is. This is why you shouldn't listen to this type of music. Obviously, these people were trying to just con them and be like, I don't want you listening to Led Zeppelin or Metallica, so we're going to scare you straight, right? Clearly, that's what happens, because if you light an album on fire, it will catch on fire. If the fire is hot enough, pretty much everything burns. And that completely terrified me. So then advance forward a few years, and while I was still very impressionable, I was assigned to give a talk about the demons and how they could affect us. And I remember these articles and looking them up and thinking, okay, well, that's super scary. I can be killed by a demon. I can be molested by a demon. Like, Satan and the demons have that much power if I'm not a good little Jehovah's Witness boy. So after that, and me being the type of person that I am, I was like, okay, I can live in fear of this my entire life and just always be worried about it. Or I can test it and be fearless and test it. So, me being me, I was fearless and I tested it. Yes, as a believing Jehovah's Witness, fully committed to the organization, a regular pioneer, a ministerial servant, whatever. I, for 1 month, prayed to Satan. For an entire month. I stopped praying and I only prayed to Satan. And I asked him over and over and over again. I mean, it was like random stuff, like make hands appear in the mirror. Let this plant die when I wake up in the morning tomorrow. I'll close these blinds. Let them be open in the morning. The tires on my mom's car, they'll go flat. There will be a lightning storm and lightning will strike the front yard. I mean, just all of these random things for a whole month, and saying, I will stop worshiping Jehovah and I will worship you, Satan, if you provide me any of these signs, any sign at all, anything abnormal, anything kooky, anything crazy. And guess what happened? Nothing. Nothing happens if you pray to Satan. If you do a scientific experiment, however scientific I could be as being a believing member of the Jehovah's Witnesses, nothing happened. Now, the crazier part of this is I still believe Satan existed, and I still believed that the demons existed. But after that moment, I realized, okay, yeah, they might be real, but this narrative, however, the Watchtower and them saying that they can affect you, they can't. Because I did everything in my power to let it in. I said, if it's, and my rationale was, okay, well, if I do find out that Satan's real, right, and he does manifest himself, I can always run back to God. I'll be scared straight and my faith will be stronger. So I have nothing to lose here. And God, if he's a forgiving God, then obviously, he'll take me back, even though I was praying to Satan. Nothing happened. Nothing whatsoever. So for a whole month, and when I say believing, unless people know me, like, personally, they probably don't really realize how devoted I was because of some of the stories that I tell. And they think, oh, well, this guy was never really a witness. But people that do know me, check out the EXJW Diaries channel. Justin, he knows me very well. I was one of the people that studied with him. But he'll be my vouch, because I know for sure. He would tell you, I don't know of another person or family that was more devoted to this organization than the Barnetts. And yet I prayed to Satan just because I needed to free myself from this ludicrous notion that if I had the wrong statue or music album or watched the wrong movie or said the wrong thing, that my head could be turned around by a demon and killed on the spot. And that was so freeing, because it is actually evil. It is an evil thing to indoctrinate people with these superstitious beliefs, to make them fear something that's not real. It's kind of like the Into the Mind of God series. It's like someone threatening their children with, I don't know, like death, or I will make you sleep in the garage and you'll only eat worms if you don't clean your room. That's probably not true of 99.9% of parents out there. They're not going to make their kids sleep in the garage and eat worms if they don't clean their room. But to use that sort of language is horrible. Why are we doing this? And it took me being brave enough to just say, you know what? I need to know if this is real. I have a very curious mind, and I like testing things, and I needed to know if this whole business was real. Even after my experiment, because the indoctrination is thick, I still believed. But anyway, yeah, that's about all I have to say. There's some cool, interesting, weird, goofy, spooky quotes for you. I probably should have released this around Halloween, because that would have been a lot more appropriate and, kind of getting into the spirit of things. But yeah, that is about all I got cooking for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and give me a second and I'll find a wicked stunt to do. Wicked stunt. Wicked stunt. Easy. Wicked stunt. Alright, the wicked stunt this time is if I can take the famous sriracha peas that I do this trick with and get one in the cup. You have to like and subscribe to the channel. Aww. Second try, that's not half bad. Let's go! Like and subscribe. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.